Welcome everyone to the Horizen bi-weekly update on September 5th, 2018. This is one of your hosts, Rob Viglione at FinFunk, and I'm here with Rolf Versluis at Block Ops. We will be running you through so big picture stuff that we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off with community highlights like we always do. Then I'm going to hand off to Rolf to do a deep dive into the mining decision recap, which I know is on everyone's minds. And then we'll go into the project updates. So we'll go through the normal spreadsheet with all of the deliverables that we're working on, percent complete, and all of that good stuff, descriptions of what's going on, so you can see the nitty gritty of what's going on behind the scenes. And then I'll pass off to Alan, DevMan, to give our secure and supernode system updates. And then we'll pass to Lucy to do the marketing updates. We have a lot of really cool stuff going on. And then we'll do our regional activity updates as usual. So let's see the next slide, please, on the community member highlights. So always very important here to highlight and talk about the people who are contributing so much, oftentimes behind the scenes, but in very meaningful, impactful ways. So Yoon-jae Jong out of Korea has been an extremely helpful community member out of our Korean community. His nickname on there is Equihash. You guys probably recognize that name. And so he's just extremely helpful. Anytime anyone needs help with setting up a secure node, setting up a super node, Yoon is always very quick to help and provide the support that we absolutely need from our community members to be active. So thank you very much. So another community member who's done an awesome job over these last couple of weeks is Marcin. So you're going to see some of his work later in these slides, so I won't belabor it here. But basically, you're going to see a really cool node visualization and node count. So not just the registered secure and super nodes that we have those numbers, we tally them, we show you stats all the time. You're actually going to see a nice visual that Marcin and other members from our team put together where they scraped our node network, and they were able to actually compile information on all of the nodes that were currently active and had their port open. So Marcin, thank you so much for your help, and we're going to look at your cool product in a little bit. So without delaying any further, Rolf, I would love to hand to you to get into some fun stuff here on the mining community update.
Sure, yeah, let's just jump right into it, Rob. So on a previous live stream, I had committed to providing an update to what we're going to do with the mining algorithm, whether we're going to look at making a change or not by the end of August, so that we could give clarity for everybody, as well as either fit that change into the planned hard fork update that we have in October or not. Rob's going to go through a bunch of the things that we're working on in conjunction that are going to be brought into that hard fork. So let me first say, since Zencash started as a fork off Z Classic and is now Horizen, of course. This is back in November, almost 2 years ago. The primary mining has been by GPU miners. So GPU miners have been a large part of the Horizen community since inception. And a large part of the group of people that have been spreading the word, mining lots of new Zen, and getting that activity on the exchanges. So we're always going to have mining as part of our overall history. For people that have been in cryptocurrency for a while and have seen the progression that algorithm technology typically takes from CPU, and Z Classic and Zcash were both originally mined by CPU before GPU miners were developed. Then GPU miners, there has been in many cases an FPGA step, but people these days are going straight to ASIC. There's non-recoverable expenses on ASIC development, and so there's an upfront charge, and memory cost is high when making purpose-specific miners that are based around ASICs. And so ASICs were developed for Equihash. And at that point, we had to have a discussion. We had to say, okay, well, what are we actually trying to accomplish with the mining? And should we look at changing the algorithm to something that's completely different, that's more memory hard, that is more difficult for ASICs to do, or do a a small parameter change to the Equihash to make it more difficult for ASICs to mine in order to continue having our GPU community mine for Horizen. So we looked at a bunch of different things. We looked at different algorithms. We looked at what it would take to change it. We looked at what would happen after we changed it. And I did a video, and we did a update last week before the end of the month, just like we said, and we decided that we're not going to change the mining algorithm for now. And there's a number of good reasons for that. This does not preclude changing the mining algorithm later. We have some priorities, and one of the priorities is getting the sidechain going so that we can get the voting protocol into it. And this is one that we would love to have a decision that we'd love to have the voting protocol in place for. But we don't yet. So we did the best that we could, focusing on the security of the network as a priority. Now, sometimes it's difficult to project what's going to happen in the future if you take a specific action. But based upon history and different abilities of different organizations involved, as well as the actual hardware that's involved, what many of us on the team believe would happen if we change the parameters to 144.5, for example, there'd be enough motivation for other organizations out there to make changes themselves. So one of the changes that might happen is that NiceHash would create an option for that ASIC parameter set. And then ASIC manufacturers would create a 144.5 version of the ASIC. And at that point, we would go through the same exact cycle that we had just been through before. We had gone through a 51% attack on Horizen because there was enough rental hash on NiceHash at the time to be able to do the attack. And there was a period of time when ASICs were actually mining in secret and not being for sale for regular consumers. And we're already past that point if we stay with the existing Equihash algorithm. There's multiple vendors that are selling Equihash ASIC miners, and they're available for people. And then what would happen at that point if we went through the same cycle? Would we be looking to do another algorithm change? One of the reasons that we don't want to change away from the Equihash algorithm is to maintain upstream compatibility, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But basically, upstream compatibility, there are a lot of things that we want to accomplish to actually serve our customers and users for the privacy cryptocurrency and that we started out as and we're continuing to build out. So there's a lot of improvements that our developers have been working on and are bringing to the internal testnet and then the public testnet here over the next 6 months. So this is what we're focused on. And at this point in time, it appears that keeping the existing algorithm is more secure than changing to a different algorithm. Okay, so to recap, the on the ASIC on the algorithm, we're not changing any algorithm for now, and we're making that clear. Unless there's a security problem with the existing algorithm for some reason, if we're able if we sustain attacks. Now, what we are working on is the 51% attack prevention update to our Zen software. And we expect to, well, that's going from internal testnet to public testnet, I believe this week. Don't hold me to that, but I know it's very soon. And then we're going to look for help on testing that, and then we're going to put that in place. So that helps mitigate some of the attack. But we don't want to roll too many updates into a hard fork. So if we're going to look at, again, if we were looking at changing the algorithm, we would be wanting to make a choice. Do we change the algorithm, or do we put the 51% attack protection into it? There's only so many things that we want to roll into a major upgrade, because we can test things on testnet as much as we want, but when they actually get into the real world and are subject to all sorts of different activity and attack, we see other things. Okay. And long term, I have a number. I'm a miner. I have a number of GPUs. I would love for those to be mining Horizen, and I also run ASIC miners. Now these ASIC miners are for older algorithms, and so long term, though, we want to evaluate and see what other projects are doing with other types of mining algorithms. So first off, we're looking at our block DAG, which is a proof of work change from the blockchain that we have. That's going to affect things. That might make it straightforward again for GPU and possibly even CPU miners to mine Horizen. There's other algorithms out there that are being worked on and being put in into other cryptocurrencies out there, and we can see how they're going with the MTP, Merkle Tree Proof, and Prog POW. And we aren't just a cryptocurrency that differentiates based upon mining algorithm. So certainly that's part of our overall calculation and overall distribution. But 30% of the Zen supply goes and gets paid out to developers and marketing and all the other folks through the Zen Blockchain Foundation, 20% to people that are running nodes. And we're working, we have an excellent development team, but still they're limited in what they can do, and we need to focus on the priorities. So anyway, it was an overall team decision after a lot of study, discussion, looking at the different possibilities of what would happen if we changed or we didn't change, and maintaining certainly the importance of the distribution of Zen to the existing community that got us to where we're going, but also recognizing that the security of the overall project and making sure that we can continue having good activity without having attacks against Horizen is the overall priority. Anyway, so that's the update. At the end of the live stream, we're happy to take questions and answers and go through those again. So that's what I got on that, Rob, unless there was something that you thought I might have missed that I should go over?
No, Rolf, that was awesome. Thank you so much for the detail that you provided there. So okay. I know it was a very hard decision. This is something we've been, actively debating for quite a bit, and we know we have some very passionate community members, and we're really trying to make a decision that we think is best for the entire community, the entire ecosystem, and all stakeholders. So thanks, Rolf.
Yeah.
I will, and guys. We know that there's going to be a ton of questions on that, so please, at the end, we're more than happy to take them in the Q&A at the end. So I'll dive right in, Rolf, if we can go to the next slide on the active projects. So this is something, again, we want to show you guys. We have a lot going on. What we have here are these active projects or active development projects. Really what we should be doing is extending this to show you other active projects under BD, marketing, and so forth. But what we'll cover here is we want there to be traceability. So every 2 weeks when we give you an update, you can see progress or no progress, but you can at least see what has been going on and where we're going. And then, you can evaluate for yourself whether you think the progress that we're making is what we should be doing. Because really we have community resources, and we're trying to do the best we can with the very limited resources that we have. So what you have here, as Rolf mentioned, is network security is priority number one, right? So we've got network security, and you'll see by the projects mapped to our big goals. Network security, clearly number one, because we just went through our 51% attack, which we do not want to ever happen again. And then speed of the network and usability of the network. Okay, so the projects that you're going to see here all go towards these very important priorities for the project. So you have to define your vision, your mission, then map resources and tasks to actually accomplish this. So we're really happy to mention that the 51% attack prevention code, like we said, has been done. We're calling it 70% to complete at this point. We are releasing it to the public test net. So all of the code will be public, and you will be able to help us test on our test net as of tomorrow. So we're really hoping to push this out today, but we had one last little tweak that we wanted to add just to get the most robust software that we can to the public test net to kick things off. So this is one of the big innovations of the project that we hope will help the entire industry. So we're really excited about it, and we encourage everyone in the community who can set up a testnet node, please do so, and then help us rigorously test this. So we've gone through internal testing, and everything is looking really good the way it is right now. So we're very enthusiastic for it. Now, on the ASIC resistance research, clearly we mark this as 100% complete. So what we're going to do in the future is we're going to have some period at which you'll see the 100% complete projects. Maybe we'll keep it there for one more biweekly, and then we'll rotate them out when they're done. This was really evaluating the parameter changes, and we made the decision not to do it for all of the reasons that Rolf mentioned, and it was not an easy decision, but we think that it is the most conservative decision for the health and security of our network, which is priority number one. Now, the side chains, you're going to see a very interesting white paper released in the next couple of weeks. Ideally, so we're targeting for the next biweekly. You're going to be able to see the paper. I've gone through it myself, and it is, I would say, fantastic job from Alberto and our IOHK support, co-authoring the paper and doing some really heavy lifting on the math validation to support the model that we've invented to create what we think will be the world's first truly decentralized sidechain system. So this is extremely exciting work. I'll hold off on more of the technical conversation about how it will work until we actually release the paper. Maybe we'll have a dedicated series on it. It is a really big deal, and we've been talking about being a platform for a while now, and this is a big vision for the project, but we're not there yet. And the side chains are how we're getting there. So this is a really important step for us moving forward. Now, the treasury system, so if we had our voting system in place, like Rolf mentioned, voting on what we do with the parameter change would have been an excellent use case for the voting system. We're not there yet, so we have to make decisions under the current constraints and resources that we have. But where we are going in the near future is the first sidechain that we're going to run will be our treasury voting system. So we're going to democratize our treasury resource pool and have the community directly give input on how it's used. Not just input, but actual votes. So this is a really big deal. It's going to be our first sidechain. So we're very, very excited for it. The off-chain challenge, again, so priorities, network security, and then efficiency, speed of the network. So right now we have for our secure nodes and super nodes, we have on-chain challenges. So basically, to verify that people are running the appropriate hardware, at least a minimum amount of the minimum threshold for hardware requirements, we give them a shielded transaction challenge that we want them to respond to. It's all broadcast on the network. And this is great from a security characteristic, right? We have a massive number of node commitments going into our node commitment set. So basically, for reducing traceability of individual transactions, this is actually a phenomenal feature of the Horizen network. The fact that we actually do this on-chain challenges, but it is a burden to the network in terms of transaction throughput and trying to push tens of thousands of additional transactions through the chain every week. So we're looking at options to make this more efficient, and the off-chain challenge is one of these. So we have some good work there. So the code is actually code changes are in progress, and the node tracker changes are next in the queue to make that happen. So next slide, please. Okay, so difficulty algorithm research. There was actually a little bit of confusion on this one. So really what we're talking about here was the penalty algorithm for the 51% prevention code. So if you look at our white paper and the algorithm that we put in there for how we would penalize delayed block reporting, we were doing research, experimenting with different functional forms. And it turns out that the functional form that we actually initially converged on seems to be the best one. So this is what we went forward with. So when you see the code hit testnet tomorrow, this will actually be the algorithm that you see. So we marked that 100% complete. Transaction throughput scaling research. So actually what was going on with the previous Zencast chain and now the Horizen chain was the miners were actually having difficulty processing transactions with lots of small inputs. So we would have oftentimes from exchanges, when an exchange is doing a withdraw, so say a customer in an exchange does a withdrawal of some Zen, what the exchange would do is they would actually bundle together a lot of very small UTXOs, unconfirmed transaction outputs, and they would broadcast these into an accumulated UTXO. They would go out to their customer. Now, what this does is it places a burden on the network, particularly for miners when they call it get block template. They were having issues with actually the Zen daemon shutting down, quite frankly. So we were having some issues there with the amount of many input transactions that were hitting the network. And this was particularly an issue when we listed on Binance, and all of a sudden we saw a flurry of activity going from some other exchanges into Binance. So withdrawals from other exchanges and deposits into Binance. So this kicked us into gear at the time, and we realized, well, we have to do something that's more efficient for our network. So Alberto designed a really cool solution that this research was actually all about figuring out. So the research output from this study now rolls into the transaction weight and block weight parameter. So now, rather than miners having to just say limit the number of transactions that they bundle into a block, which is what they were doing as a first order solution to this problem, this throughput problem, which is actually very inefficient. It's like taking a sledgehammer when you have a kind of like a pinhead that you're trying to hit with it. So it was very inefficient, and it was causing some scaling issues with our network. So this parameter that Alberto invented and had some support on in the research was we have a much more intelligent way now of accounting for the get block template requirements. So as a miner is calling get block template, now they have a much more refined and intelligent parameter that they can call to make sure that they can add as many transactions as they can into the block before it would actually cause a problem. So rather than limiting just statically at say like 17 transactions per block, now it's a more dynamic feature that actually takes into account the number of inputs and the size of transactions. So that's really cool. So you can see again our priorities here. We want things to be increasingly efficient, and this is the kind of stuff they're working on in the background. Now, our other big ticket scaling study. So we have really, the way I would consider is I view our scaling currently, in which is still not complete. We have a two-pronged scaling effort ongoing. So on the one hand, side chains are a massive improvement for scalability, because we're talking about being able to port entire business models potentially onto a side chain, and then it's just the main chain to side chain interaction, which we'll have a standardized SDK for, which will actually be the only point of broadcast to the main chain that could actually slow things down. So you could do a lot of stuff on a side chain. So that's one part of our scalability effort this year. The other part is on the main chain transaction throughput, which is our block DAG study that we've been working with IOHK. Now, some preliminary results from this, and there's going to be a paper released on the model, on the mathematical proofs, and on preliminary testing, and prototyping, is things are really fast. So this is extremely good news for the project. We're calling this particular research component of the project 75% complete, and we're looking at final completion in Q4. Then we have to actually build it from prototypes. So guys, don't let's not get ahead of ourselves and think that we're there yet. Now, the other part of scaling, which I haven't talked about here, so we have a two-pronged effort for this year, but then we can think about how the blockchain itself, or the data that we're storing, is actually scaling, because we don't want that to blow up to infinity, right? So there's future scaling work as well. It's not like we're solving the entire scaling problem today with these research efforts, but they are very innovative, and I would actually say groundbreaking for the industry. So we're very excited. Okay, so node tracker refinement, we're 80% complete on this project. So we're continuing to refine the node requirements tracker. So analysis in progress to see if we can gauge hardware requirements, for instance, in a more intelligent way. For instance, like leveraging our Equihash algorithm that we use to have machines perform work on Equihash. There's some interesting research there that one of our very bright new developers is working on. So very excited for that work, and we're nearing completion on it. We haven't put a release date on it yet, but we're about 80% ETC on it. Now, another really important thing is, because we are a community-driven project, is we want the more resources that we push out into the community, the better. So we have some really heavy-hitting R&D. We have some really heavy-hitting development, marketing activities, and a ton of other stuff that we're constantly doing. But we have to push resources out to the community and empower people to help grow this project virally. We have to empower people out in the field to really get out there and push growth on their own terms. So for us, the ability for community members to be able to submit proposals to do work is absolutely critical. We've been doing this so far on our forum, but what's more important for us is we want to make it easy and user-friendly for people to submit proposals. So we have this proposal portal. So it's basically a graphical user interface that community members or really anyone in the world will be able to submit work proposals into the GUI, and then the community will be able to evaluate them, to comment on them, leave reviews. The team will be able to evaluate and decide whether or not we want to fund them. Now, this is a precursor to our treasury voting system, which will be on-chain and everything automated. So right now, we're still the custodians of the system, but this is an interim path to get to where we want to go. And of course, because it's a path to get to where we want to go, we're designing it so that it's compatible and we'll be able to reuse the GUI interface for the actual on-chain treasury voting system. Another big thing for us is our usability. Of course, usability, Rolf and I just keep hammering this home all the time, is we want our products to be really, really good, user-friendly, and just have a big impact in the ecosystem. So we have been designing a brand new flagship wallet. So it's going to be for desktop and web. It'll include a light client and a full node. So we actually received, so we've been going back and forth with the development team on this one for several months now, and we think we're about there to have kind of a beta version. We hope can be released to the community for public testing this month. So we had the last deliverables that we just tested internally. We sent back some additional things that we wanted to be changed, and we're going to be hopefully taking delivery of a beta version that we can release to the public. This is very exciting because we need a nice user-friendly system that spans platforms that is extremely stable. Now, going towards usability again is hardware wallets, and Rowan does an amazing job all the time on business development and getting us just nonstop integrations into different things. And we've been working on Trezor integration. So hardware wallets are such an important part of any blockchain ecosystem or cryptocurrency ecosystem, because you have to have a safe, secure, stable way to store your Zen offline, or just in a safe way so that it's not at risk. And having hot wallets are always at risk of being hacked. So Ledger was a really important development for us. We've this is nothing new. So everything that's all the percent completes in blue or actually updates. This is no new update, so we'll probably remove it for the next biweekly. But just to kind of confirm it again, is we did integrate into the hardware wallet for Trezor T, but we don't have a companion software wallet, which is actually on the Trezor team to do. So if Trezor wants Zen users to start migrating over to Trezor, then Trezor team will have to actually push out a software wallet that's compatible with their hardware device. So hopefully that is the case. But other than that, we've pushed this as far as we can go as a team. And now if you are interested in Trezor, please, I encourage you guys to get out there and reach out to the Trezor team and tell them that you want to see a companion software wallet. All right, so that's a mouthful going through all those different engineering updates, all the projects that are ongoing. So the consensus enhancement, this is our protection against 51% attack. So this is a big deal for the industry. So 51% attacks for the last 10 years have always been a looming threat for Bitcoin. Originally, it was actually a really big threat early on. Fortunately, Bitcoin survived and has grown to the point where it would be much more costly to mount such an attack. But it still is a vulnerability. It's a vulnerability with the Nakamoto or Satoshi consensus or the longest chain rule, and that there is no penalty currently for delayed block reporting. So you can have an adversarial miner go and mine a whole sequence of blocks that include fraudulent double spend transactions, and then they go and push this sequence of blocks into the chain simultaneously, and they can confuse people. They can commit fraud by doing this. It's just not something that I think is acceptable anymore. So what we've done is we've created a penalty mechanism for delayed block reporting, and it's a penalty where if you go and you try to mine blocks in private, and then try to inject them into the chain all at once, you will be penalized. You will be penalized based on its distance to the block tip or the blockchain tip or the height of the blockchain. So that's what we're using as our metric for distance from the current most recent block. And it should be a nice, elegant solution to hopefully kill this whole 51% thing forever. So the solution that we use in the kind of recap table where I mentioned we were evaluating different algorithms for how we would apply a penalty, we chose to use the simple algorithm that we proposed as our first our first best case in the white paper that we released a couple of months ago. And that's all coded up now, and it's on our testnet actually with our nodes, like I said in the last biweekly, and we're going to be releasing publicly now for public testing tomorrow. So yeah, this should be a really big deal, but we do need the community to help us out. So we've rigorously tested this internally. We've had a composite dev team work on it, evaluate it, try to break it as much as possible, and we think that we've done a really good job on the testing, but you never know, right? Everything is potentially vulnerable, at least theoretically. So the more eyes that we can have on the code and the more people that we can have actually running testnet nodes and trying to execute different types of tests to say, bifurcate our network, that would be really useful. So please, anyone who's technically capable of doing this stuff, please consider joining in the public test environment. Okay, guys, let's move on to the next slide, please. We'll talk about the work that so Peace Do and Ultimate Blockage, two awesome guys from our community who are actually on our team because they've just been doing so much work for the community. We couldn't help but bring them on more formally. Worked with Marcin to actually evaluate our entire network. So crawl the entire network and calculate how many nodes and their geographic location for all the nodes we have operating right now. So this goes beyond the secure nodes and super nodes. This is actually any full node on the network. So this could be anyone, for instance, running a Swing wallet or command line wallet. So as soon as you do that, you're actually running a full node instance if you're running either of these two wallets. So if we tally these up, it's really interesting to look at the geographic dispersion. So we are a global project. That's the good news. We're not just talking about being a global project, we actually are. So you can see though, what's interesting is, and I think this is probably due to some of the geographic location of some of our community members. So you can see that Germany is #1. So they take the leading role. So good job to Deutschland. You've got 27% of the reachable nodes that we were able to estimate. And the US came in a close second with 25% of the nodes on our network. Ukraine, #3 with 10%, then France with 8%, Canada 7%, the Czech Republic with 4%, the UK only 3%. So I like to challenge our UK community to step up your game a little bit, run some more nodes. Netherlands 3%, Finland 3%, Japan 2%, and then if you add up all of the others that weren't approximated here, we've got 10% for the rest of them. So really good news, guys. If you look at the map, it's cool to see just where our nodes are running. I love it's always cool to look at the remote nodes. So nodes that are running kind of in relatively remote regions relative to the rest of the network. But it's cool for us to see that we have fairly good geographic dispersion. Now this is not where we want to go. This is a cool first step, but we have to do better, guys. So I challenge the entire community. Let's set up some more nodes in different parts of the world. For instance, look at Latin America. It actually doesn't have very many nodes running right now. So we have to push harder in certain regions that aren't running nodes. Now, of course, there's always kind of economic reasons for why people choose certain parts of the world to set up nodes. So, that is what it is, but let's see what we can do in the future and think about some interesting ways to make it more geographically dispersed. Okay, so on to nodes. Alan, are you available to discuss the secure and super node updates?
Yes, I am. And awesome. We'll start with the secure node update. We can get the next slide. We have a new tracker version being prepped. It's going to be a mandatory upgrade for the secure nodes. It's not ready yet. It's not out yet, but it will be coming soon. This is more of a heads up, an announcement that it will be out in the near future. What we're looking at doing with this is dropping the TLS peer check to help reduce the load on the servers, and we're now talking directly to the to Zen to be able to get the information that we want and double check it. This will also help with the balancing the regions. We have some code in there to be able to move some of the EU nodes over to NA if needed, because we have a lot more load on that region, on the EU region, than the North America region. It's also going to work like super nodes, so we're a little behind in the updates on the secure node tracking servers, and we're going to be bringing that up to par with the more recent code that's running on the super nodes. But it'll work with just the one IP instead of requiring 2 IP addresses. One of the other changes is that no max connections will be able to be set in the zen.conf file. So we'll have the ability for the tracking servers to make those connections to the nodes. And there also is an effect of the node tracker IP being in the DNS to match the Zen IP. I don't think this was clear potentially in the past, and this might be a configuration issue when upgrading to 0.4.0 that you might need to check your nodes and make sure that you're using the same IP on both. The date, we're not quite sure yet. We still have some more testing to do, but we will make more announcements. As I said, this is just a heads up for right now. We also have the migration from the provider. It's back on track. We actually had to work more on the rebranding and all of the issues that went along with that, and the new servers that entailed. So we're getting that back on track, and we'll get all of those secure nodes off of our old provider and onto the same types of servers that the super nodes are on in the near future here. Next slide, please. For the super nodes, we are not requiring the 0.4.0 version right away when that's available, because the 3.1 works correctly or is geared toward the super nodes for right now, and it's functional. But we will be requiring that once we get the secure nodes all updated. The number of nodes seems to be running steady at about 1,900, still pushing for that 2,000 node mark, but it seems to have slowed down maybe a little bit. And our future goals, I think Rob talked about a lot of this already, where we're looking for the automated tracking of payments on the secure nodes. Side change, probably more likely in Q1 2019, and to be able to host different applications and services on those side chains. And back to you, Rob.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate the updates. So the last slide that I have here is on the R&D side, and really, we've already talked through a lot of this stuff. But the three big ticket R&D items, so the DAO Treasury and voting system. So the prototype is done. This was a really big deal for us to say that we have delivery of a working prototype. Now, we have some additional work to actually go from prototype to production. The critical dependency here is our sidechain SDK. Now, the secret sauce for a sidechain system to work properly is you've got two-way communications between the main chain and the sidechain. The real secret, though, is how you do the sidechain to main chain communications. And this is, the little teaser that I'll give you for the paper that you'll see released in a couple of weeks, to see that this was done in a way that's truly decentralized and not dependent on some sort of third-party entity, or a merge mining process or anything like that. So stay tuned for that. And these really tough decisions that we're making as a community, we'll actually be able to have a community directly making them with our voting system. So this is really cool for anyone who is very passionate about a particular topic. You will be able to have your voice directly heard and accounted for, right, in our voting system. Now, the scaling study I mentioned, it's the good news is it seems to be really fast, the DAG protocol that we have prototyped. So right now it's in testing, debugging on the prototype side, tuning the modules, the algorithms. The important thing here is to think about how you adjudicate conflict. So if you have two different blocks, so the whole thing with a DAG is you're generalizing the blockchain structure from being sequential to be block generation in parallel. So this will be great for having a proof of work optimized DAG on the market, which most DAGs on the market, maybe all DAGs on the market, or transaction DAGs, and they do away with proof of work mining. We're not at all. We're going to do proof of work mining on steroids, which the goal here, we hope this is our long-term solution for how we make small scale mining profitable, because we want to have maximum decentralization on mining rewards, right? So the whole thing with the parameter shift that we did not choose to execute right now, we hope that the long-term solution, rather than being in this constant cat and mouse game with hardware manufacturers, is to go block DAG. So we think that this is an extremely exciting development for the project, and we're moving forward on it. So in the sidechain stuff, I've given some tantalizing tidbits about the sidechain model that Alberto and his team have been working on with IOHK. It's really good, exciting stuff, but the proof will be in the pudding, where you'll be able to see number one, the mathematical validation for the model and its architecture in a couple weeks, and then we have to get into prototype mode. So right now we're in the number one, refining the white paper, which I would say is 90% plus complete. Just needs some kind of formatting, syntax stuff, and then we'll be looking at actually scoping out the project for the prototyping and allocating resources to really kick things off. So that's what we have on the R&D side. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Lucy on the marketing side and kick it off with all the fun stuff we have going on.
All right, hi everyone, Lucy here. We have some exciting updates from the marketing side. So we currently have a promotion with Cred, where users can get $10 worth of Zen, where they when they buy $10 of Zen through Cred. So for people who don't know about Cred, Cred is a cryptocurrency micro investment app. I think it's probably one of the easiest to help you invest in crypto. So the help rounds up changes from everyday purchases and invest them into crypto. So you can simply set up, or you can simply set up a recurring deposit as well. So after the initial setup, you can just invest and grow your crypto profile a little bit every day without having to think about it again. So it's really easy. And then they just launched yesterday, and Zen is one of the cryptos that are available for investing through that platform. So from now until September the 10th, Cred will give you $10 of Zen when you buy $10 of Zen through their app. The one thing that I want to highlight is that right now, Cred is only available in 4 states in America. They're California, Missouri, Montana, and Massachusetts. But they're working on making their service available in more areas. So if you are residents in one of these states, right now is a great opportunity to give Cred a try and invest your spec changes in Zen. Next slide, please. All right. So it has been 2 weeks since the launch of our new brand. And Horizen is thriving. We have been receiving a lot of feedback from our community and other stakeholders. Most of them are very excited and optimistic about our new brand. They love the new brand. They love the brand expansion for many reasons. One of the biggest reasons is that they feel our new brand identity is now better matching our mission, our values, and direction. And then it lift limitations that we had previously as we outgrew our old brand. We believe Horizen better reflects our technology and social innovation ambitions. Well, and there are also some concerns from our community on our new brand. I mean, it's normal and understandable, especially when many of us are very attached to our old brand. I don't see these concerns as a bad thing. Actually, I think it's good. You know, it shows that we have a very passionate community and they deeply cares about our project. So Horizen is built by all of us, including our highly active community and different stakeholders across different sectors. But our ultimate goal is the same. You know, it is creating something better and bigger. And we are doing this together. And, you know, and then it's something that we're all very proud of. So the current task in the coming months will be to update all of our assets, our own communication platform and third-party platforms, our partners with our new brand. So upgrading a brand is a process that can involve many steps and take some time for us to nurture it. So we will finalize things surely and gradually. And then we have been busy on doing just that. Just in the past 2 weeks, Horizen was covered in more than 64 media articles. That's a lot, and including some popular media outlets. And our team has been busy doing YouTube interviews and spreading Horizen vision We did over 14 interviews just in the past 2 weeks, and we have more coming as well. So if you have a platform and audience and you would like to talk to us, please reach out to us. We are always happy to find different ways and channels to connect with our community and beyond. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's just a reminder to show that we have a set of goals in mind for our brand expansion, just like anything else we do for this project. And all the goals that we have in mind will be evaluated over time. But we are very happy that Horizen had a very successful launch, and it's gaining more and more admirers every day. Based on the feedback that we received from our investors, partners, and the community members, Horizen is a more dynamic and mature brand, and that's one of the most comments that we receive from people. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so we had a competition that featured our new brand. And through this competition, people were able to help us spread the word about our brand expansion. So thank you to you guys. You know, a lot more people knew about our brand expansion than otherwise. And our competition resulted in over 7,600 entries. That's a lot of people, ranging from retweets to Reddit subscriptions. And we have people from all over the world participating in this event. And this just shows, you know, how truly global Horizen has become. So all these 10 lucky winners listed on here, they will be able to pick anything they want from our merch store. So I'm very excited for them, and then we will be contacting them individually to let them know, you know, how they can claim their prize. Next slide, please. All right. Speaking of our merch store, I know this is a long overdue. But we are taking our time to make sure everything in the store is top notch for our community, because you guys only deserve the best, you know. And then the current status on the store is that we are working through some dropshipper issues right now. But the store is fully designed and stocked up with some really cool merchandise. And we are very excited for it. I mean, I personally can't wait for you to see it and, you know, be able to buy stuff. We will accept Zen as a method of payment, and people from all over the world can purchase from our store. And our store will be open very, very soon, I promise. So please bear with us, and you won't be disappointed. Next slide, please. Okay, wow, so this slide, this is a preview of some of the actual products that will be available in our store. So, and of course, we'll have a lot more than this. This is just a preview of 4 of the actual products. They're pretty cool. I'm getting one of them for sure. Next slide, please. Okay, if you didn't win the free swag competition that we just presented just now, we have another competition running right now. So through this competition, you will have a chance to win a free Ledger Nano S. That's really cool. You know, it's a must-have. It's you want to keep your Zen safe. So make sure that you can find the competition and ways to join on our social media channels. So please make sure that you are following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. Speaking of Reddit, we have moved to a new subreddit, which is /Horizen. So please make sure that you are subscribed to our new subreddit, so you're not missing anything all the fun stuff. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, upcoming events. As usual, we are always on the road. Our team will be attending ETC Summit in Seoul, Korea next week. And in September the 26th, we will be presenting in Blockchain Live in London. We will have a booth there, and Rob will be speaking at the conference. And in October, we will be in Los Angeles and also Texas. Rolf will be at Texas Bitcoin Conference. So if you will be in one of these locations during the event dates, come and see us. We are always very excited to see our community members offline. Meanwhile, make sure that you are connected with us online through social media channels. That's all from me. Back to you, Rob.
Great, thank you so much, Lucy. And let's see, so there's one thing that I'll mention is, there's one other conference in Kiev, Ukraine, that I'll be speaking at on the 14th of September. For any of our audience in Ukraine, please consider joining that one. But let's move on here to the country regional updates. And David, please take it along for the Eastern European one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I was very pleased, and I probably should have inserted here that Ukraine is one of the countries that is leading in our node numbers. Finally, I think all my visits have paid off. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, it's not just nearly just me, but all the community and the rest of the team has been having a lot of efforts. And one of the interesting things that I realized, Ukraine is very rich in the kind of IT savvy people in general. I mean, there are people with who are blockchain enthusiasts and experts everywhere, but in Eastern Europe, Ukraine is particularly known for that. So maybe that actually helps a little bit in the region. So to go down the list real quick, because I think we're getting towards the end of the hour. Alex presented at the joint meetup with OKX in Moscow, and it's actually a whole video that we shared on Twitter. You can see if you're interested. We are having another meetup in Budapest, Hungary, in cooperation with Blockchain Competence Center. And Rolf just confirmed that he'll be speaking there actually on 20th, not 18th. I literally got this email today. I'll confirmed with the vendor. So please make a note of that, since the slides were already locked and finalized. There is another meetup in Tbilisi sooner on September 13th at the place called Terminal. It's a very cool and neat co-working space. And Vano will be arranging that and speaking about Horizen there. And last but not the least, Alex has actually been doing quite a bit of outreach, and all three items there is done by himself in Russia, talking to CryptoShark, DevZen, and Bits Media about the 51% attack comment. So I think that's about it, Rob. I'll pass on to Arno. I think is our next guy.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Hey, David. Okay, I also want to continue with some meetups which we have. Like it's 3, and I think the places and towns you can read on the slide. I don't want to waste more time because I hope Jonas is here. Jonas, can you test your microphone because we have some travel report?
I'm here already.
And please take your time and tell about the Singapore trip, please.
So yeah, I just had the chance to visit the Blockchain Summit Singapore end of last week, and it was quite an interesting conference. A little bit different than the last conferences I've been to. Obviously, Singapore is a financial hub, so those financial big players like Deutsche Bank and ING were present, but also a lot of the other big companies like KLM, Air France, IBM, and Cisco. And basically, the consensus was that all those big companies really can't afford not to look into blockchain anymore. So they're exploring different use cases for their companies, and are really open towards all suggestions. Really good talking to those. And then I met some guys from Scoop Mining, which offer you to have a hosted ASIC mining. So you can buy a device with them. They're going to host it for you for a commission, obviously. But they're accepting Zen as a payment now because they were quite fond of the project and like the idea of privacy in general. So that was done in just one day. And yeah, glad those guys helped out with some adoption and some usability for Zen. I think that would be it for now.
Okay, Jonas, big thanks. And yes, of course, I checked also their offers. It's really nice. There's one picture there. We have, if you go on the page, scoop.tech, you can buy the hashing power directly with Zen. Really nice. Ayara, you want to add something about the Berlin trip? Okay, then I think we are done. And Luca.
Okay, I'm here. Hello, everybody. It's always a pleasure, I have to say, to see how much real and tangible progress we do in just 2 weeks. That's really impressive every time. I'll be fast today. I'll start speaking about 3 more professionals, people that have joined the Zen Valley. In particular, we now have a journalist here working for an important Swiss website focused on cryptos. And just by coincidence, he lives in the Zen Valley. So he's going to write some articles and give us a good visibility. He liked our project, specifically this project. So it will be good visibility for us, both locally and outside the region. Then we have Giacomo, a Lego artist, winner of several competitions all over Europe with his Lego buildings. They are really amazing. He's now selling his masterpieces for Zen. So he will be part of the ecosystem where people can buy and sell things with Zen. And finally, Gianluca, who is a trading card collector, accepts also Zen for his Magic the Gathering cards and several other games. Again, something very niche that will be interesting only for a few people, but the idea is to make Zen as much used as possible, even with niche products. For now, we are speaking more about individuals rather than companies, but hopefully merchants will join as well once the market will be a bit more stable and more in general when they will feel less volatility. So these were also the feedbacks that I got from the market in person. I've also been in Ireland last week, and that has been a very productive period. I met a group of students at Dublin's Trinity College. Some people I knew them already, but I was also introduced to some other folks, and we spoke about Horizen in general, but also ZenChat, ZenPub, how to set up a secure node. And then the same arguments were the topics for another meeting I had with a group of Irish crypto enthusiasts. And finally, I also had the chance to get to know with 2 people working for Coinbase in Dublin, where I believe Coinbase is gathering most of the European employees. And because of that, maybe Dublin, at least as far as I could see, as far as I could perceive, is becoming a very interesting place for the crypto industry in general. There is also an interesting press release from Cryptonomist talking about our brand expansion. Check the link if you want to read it in Italian. Cryptonomist is giving a nice exposure to us, to Horizen. I think this is the 3rd or 4th article about us, which is very nice for the Italian market as they are quite followed here. And finally, I can't close without mentioning the new awesome Horizen Telegram stickers are coming. What you can see on the slide is just a draft, and I don't even have an ATA yet, at least, but they are on their way. Consider that these are created by an Italian member of the community, so it's user-generated content, nothing produced by us, but we encourage everybody in doing so. Use your creativity to create some awesome content that can help our project being more and more known and recognized by everyone. If you want to write some feedbacks also about these stickers, feel free to do so. Maybe you can suggest something to improve them. Anyway, consider this as an early draft. I can't wait to see them live and to use them. For now is everything from my side. So back to you and the word to the next.
Great, Levis, take it away, please, on the Latin American market update.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, so real quick from Latin America, the last couple of weeks, actually a couple of weeks ago, I was in Colombia. We had our very first Horizen meetup in Bogota, which went extremely well. We had guest speakers from Panda Exchange, as well as the Colombian Blockchain Academy, and also the #1 crypto YouTube channel in Colombia. So we had an opportunity to really engage with the blockchain community there, and I met some amazing people that were all part of the Colombian blockchain community. So some great contacts there. Our team continues to be engaged, also spreading the Zen message across all our social media channels. We also have several different YouTube interviews that have been posted, so check out YouTube for those. We also have great news from our exchange partners, Panda Exchange. They are now the first exchange operating in Panama, and now they offer Zen USD pairs to Panamanian citizens. In addition to what they already offer, they offer Zen Euro pairs for our European citizens. And then we're in discussions with several other exchanges in the Latin American region to offer fiat pairings, excuse me, all across Latin America. And then our team in Mexico is working on final details for a 2-day node building workshop. And they're doing that in conjunction with Tecnológico de Monterrey, which is a university there in Monterrey. So stay tuned for details on those. And then finally, we're finalizing the details for other meetups that we plan to have in Colombia and Venezuela in the cities of Cúcuta, Medellin, and Caracas. So that's pretty much it from Latin America. Back to you, Rob.
Awesome. Thank you, Levis. I'm particularly interested in the node workshops. That's great. So we can see the geographic dispersion shift a little bit more into Latin America. So, all right, guys, we've hit the hour here. We're a little bit over the hour. So we want to open this up for some quick Q&A. And then, then we're going to try to keep this a little tight since we're already over. Rolf, do you have any Q&A that you're seeing coming through already?
Well, I've been accused of taking money in miners from Bitmain and, other things like that.
Is this your confession?
Do I need to deny this? I mean, of course I haven't taken any money or miners from any mining company. In fact, I'm actually a little surprised that none of the GPU mining companies like NVIDIA or AMD even reached out to talk to us. With NVIDIA's big crypto mining miss, you think they'd identify some of the projects out there that mine crypto and maybe talk with them? Offer development resources or something? I mean, nothing. You and I saw there was a couple of reps at the ZCon Zero conference that we went to in Montreal. There was a rep from Innosilicon and a rep from Bitmain there, and we tried to figure out how configurable those miners were, and we seemed to find out that the Innosilicon ASICs were able to string static RAM in a row so that they could really do a different circuit board and get as much memory as they wanted to on that. No, I mean, if anybody on that's part of the Zen Blockchain Foundation accepts anything from GPU companies or mining companies or anything like that, that's grounds for removal from the team.
And probably legal action as well.
Right.
So to clarify, you're not taking bribes, Rob?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Thanks for the clarification, my lord. So we've got a question from Austin on, are we worried about the Five Eyes governments calling for backdoor access to encryption along with threats? So Five Eyes, guys, it's been a while since my military days, but it's US, Canada, UK, and I'm forgetting the other two here of the Five Eyes. Australia, New Zealand, maybe? Not sure. But so basically, are we worried about governments trying to force us to put in backdoors for our technology? The way it stands, no, we're not. But what we're trying to do, because we haven't had this type of pressure, but what we are doing is we're decentralizing as quickly as possible so that we become censorship resistant. And this is why we're doing projects like migrating our entire node architecture on chain, why we're doing projects like the treasury voting system, right? So we can have our kind of resource allocation decisions made autonomously by the community and in a way where it's programmatic and you don't have critical dependencies on guys like Rolf and I, right? So we're not concerned. Right now, we're operating out of a relatively free society where our code is at least protected under First Amendment rights. So we're good the way we are right now, but we are trying to quickly decentralize.
Let's see. We got some people saying that we're no longer a community project. I don't know. That's
no longer what?
That we're no longer a community project. That you and I are running things, and it's our way or the highway. Apparently, everybody that's working that contributes to all these different events are people that started out in the community and wanted to spend more time contributing. We had, when we first started, the majority of the software that we got that we're still using now, the Swing wallet, the Horizen wallet, the improvements and things like that, they came from the community, which is great. In some cases, we started contracting with people using the treasury funds to continue to produce and update those. I tell you, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is when we are able to completely turn this project back over to the community, and that all decisions are going to be made through voting, and whether that's voting in different teams to do different elements of the work or other things like that. This has been this is exciting, and this is fun. It's also been a lot of hard work. One of the things that has taken a little bit of time to adjust to is that the most vocal people in the community on Telegram or on Discord or even in the YouTube chat are the people that have the negative things to say. So that kind of makes it difficult to see that day after day. And whether it takes us 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years to turn this back over to the community, I'm very excited for when that day happens.
Here, Rolf. And I'll add to this as well. Is real leadership is making the hard decisions that are the right decisions for the entire ecosystem, for all of the stakeholders, despite the very loud, vocal minority that is trying to sway things a particular way that would benefit them. So we have to do this all the time, and we're making sure that this project is going to be, safe and secure, priority number one, guys, and then awesome technology that's massively scalable and usable, number two, right? So the interests of certain people that seem to come at us extremely negatively sometimes, and this is why every now and then I'll chime in on Discord or any of our other comm channels, is sometimes you see 3 or 5 guys starting to dominate these channels with just very skewed negative stuff that doesn't account for all of the nuances of these very difficult decisions.
Oh, I see a question that is one that I'm pretty excited about, actually. Is it possible that Horizen is going to provide a business package that's going to allow a company to use our tech to message and run payroll? And that's actually a big thing. So we have a whole process that we're intending to go through to increase usability. And you'll see more of that here over the next few months as we do this type of thing. But big picture, I see first we need to have users in different vertical markets, as it were, go through and start and use Zen as a way of doing private payments, to realize how to do private payments, use Zen as private payments. Now, one of the big advances towards usability is when we're able to integrate the Zcash sapling upgrade in and create a lightweight mobile wallet that's able to do shielded transactions, which means you'll be able to do private transactions right on your mobile wallet. You'll scan the other QR code and move on. That's not quite here yet. Hopefully in about 6 months or so we can have that running. There's a lot of development work that needs to make that happen. So that's the first part. The next part is really for any business to do any kind of business transactions, take payments from their customers, pay their suppliers, do payroll. There needs to be a number of things in place. First off, you need to be able to have private payments, because you can't have all the employees figuring out what everybody else is getting paid and your competitors seeing who your suppliers are and who your customers are and things like that. So private payments is basic to being able to do business. Then you need to integrate into, I've been a small business owner for probably about 20 years now, and I haven't done the accounting side of things, but have done enough of it it worked enough with it that I know how important it is to fit technology into existing business processes. We've been talking about integration into point of sale processes, so retail and online can take that, but we also need to integrate that into accounting packages like QuickBooks, and then being able to have all sorts of reporting ability to be able to figure out profitability and taxes. So those are all on the roadmap, and those are all important things that we're going to do.
Cool. So yeah, I think that's great. Now another question we have here is from the Happy Cultivator. Would there be a way to only commit a certain percentage of shielded transactions on chain for the challenges, so that there will always be enough shielded transactions to make them stay highly secret? I think this goes to my earlier comment about how we're doing research for the off-chain verification. So yes, this is the trade-off that we have right here. What we're doing with the off-chain verification research is to give us another option to consider. Now, of course, some blended solution might be optimal for us, right? It might be optimal to say, given, if you were to look at some curve of, likelihood of a transaction being kind of decoupled from the no commitment set, we could probably look at this curve and say, hey, 90% plus solution would be to have, 40% of shielded transactions verified off chain. If we can figure something like this out and maybe a legitimate randomization process to make it happen, that could be an optimal solution. All we're doing at this stage is to cultivate the option and then figure out, what combination would be optimal. It could be, it could be binary. It could be all done off chain, all done on chain. It could be the reverse, or it could be some combination. It's certainly possible.
Okay, so we got a question about transitioning to block DAG. Will that make mining more decentralized? And Rob probably has closer information from what's been going on with the IOHK research. From my point of view, at least if we maintain the Equihash algorithm, ASICs are still going to have an advantage over GPUs and CPU mining. I do think that with a block DAG, if you're running a GPU or even CPU miner, you'll have a bigger chance of finding a block, but overall, I would expect that ASICs would continue to be more profitable on block DAG. But Rob, you might have a different interpretation on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rolf, I would say that's correct. But I would also caveat that we really don't know, and that's the thing. So we're not sure yet, because this is going to be the first, at scale block DAG, released into a production environment. So what we think is there's a few hard constraints of a network, like network latency. You can't break the speed of light. So network propagation, you can have an ASIC in one part of the world, you could have a GPU miner in another part of the world, and a fraction of a millisecond difference in propagation of transactions that you form into a block could have some effect. Because if you were to collapse difficulty where, we're doing dozens of potentially dozens of transactions in parallel, it's okay that you have actually redundancy of blocks. And this is actually accounted for in our DAG architecture. So you can have 1,000 transactions in 2 different blocks, and there could be some non-overlap. So say 90% overlap, some 10% non-overlap, both blocks are valid. So you can have an ASIC that very quickly beats to the punch a GPU miner in another part of the world, but the block that the GPU miner puts to market or puts to the chain is still valid, and they still get compensated for it. So this is still experimental. So, this is why we caveat this with a very conservative. We think that there will be, some kind of skew back to, towards GPU mining profitability, but we really don't know, right? We're not doing the block DAG for GPU mining profitability, but it is, one of the hopes, kind of like the added icing on the cake or value proposition to it. Like the number one value proposition, the purpose of doing it is massive transaction throughput, but we think a consequence would be better profitability for GPU miners.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it'll be really neat to see the testnet for this, and the transition from blockchain to block DAG will be interesting as well. How do we see Dash competition? I'm not sure that we see Dash as a competitor. Dash is certainly a leader in the cryptocurrency space. I'm very impressed by the things that they've done with early on creating masternodes, creating the voting, having the treasury that they have for funds to spend. And I think that they've been doing an outstanding job in working to get people in Venezuela to use Dash for payments. I think they've been doing a lot on point of sale as well. So I actually look to see what Dash is doing in some cases to see what kind of ideas for adoption that we might be able to have. There's so much opportunity in this space with different business vertical markets, with different person-to-person transactions, with all the different countries and communities in the world. I'm not sure that in such a huge space with actually so few players and each approaching it differently that I would consider it competition. I think everybody's just approaching the opportunity in many different ways. And hopefully they're looking at some of the things that we're doing to see and take take note of that.
Yeah, I have to concur with that. I think Dash is, you know, they always have great ideas, so it's always nice to see what they're up to. So a question here on, let's see, will the proposals in the voting system or the DAO be up for vote within the Horizen wallet? So we don't have a project yet to integrate the voting system into the Horizen wallet, but I can tell you for sure the vision is we want our products to be kind of a one-stop shop where you would be able to send a transaction, receive a transaction like our current wallets, do messaging, and also to do voting. This is the future vision. Now, what I can tell you is the prototype that we have that we're going to mature to production, the first release of it will probably be something that's you know, requires a full node to operate. I mean, that's just the way that the prototype works right now. So most likely the sidechain implementation that we bring to market initially will still require a full node. And, you know, we'll see. It'll probably, I mean, realistically, it's like, you know, whenever there's a major innovation on, you know, most blockchain projects, you'll probably see the first client will be something like a command line, and then we'll have GUI implementations that make things really nice and usable for people.
Yeah, and that protocol is going to be open source. It'll be part of our GitHub, and people will be able to design wallets to do that. So. Okay, I think we've hit all the questions that we've seen on YouTube and on the Discord. So I think that's about a wrap for today.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate everyone chiming in. And the last slide of the deck, I always forget to say, but join our community. Please come to our website, horizen.global. Join us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Retweet. Be active. You know, follow us on Facebook, go to our YouTube channel, obviously click like on everything, and start adding to the conversation on our Reddit.
Thanks for joining us today. See you next time.